Okay.
Oh wow. Another
What?
trade.
Yeah, yeah.
Jonathan Klingberg to the Minnesota Wild from Elliot Friedman.
Oh, see the cue. The cue is set.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so
Jonathan Klingberg.
From the Ducks, a one-time great defenseman with the Dallas Stars for a
Wow.
long time, had trailed off, but he's also playing for a terrible team. This gives you more depth. It gives you a veteran. If he's paired with the right guy, and he can reprise what we saw a little bit more in Dallas. This is a very interesting trade.
Wow. So Jonathan Klingberg, yeah, as Judd said, at one time, one of the best offensive moving defensemen in the NHL. He came up with the Stars. Wild fan actually probably remember him from that playoff series in 2016. I mean, he had double-digit goals his first 3 years in the NHL. He was with Anaheim in his first season after 8 years with the Dallas Stars. 50 games, 8 goals, 16 assists, 24 points. That Ducks team's terrible. He's a minus 28. Don't look too
they're
far
awful.
don't look too far into the plus minus there. But he plays a ton of minutes, 20 minutes plus a game. A guy who has played in the playoffs a ton. He was with the Stars team in the bubble that went to the Cup. 59 playoff games, 35 points. Interested to see what the return is here. I'm not sure what that would be. I'm going to guess it's a little higher than what the Wild have been giving up here. We'll see what the Wild or Bill Guerin ended up surrendering. Now, he's not a great defender, Jonathan Klingberg. Kind of a liability as a defenseman to be completely just from his natural position. But a guy who's an offensive first defenseman, probably, a better version of what Matt Dumba is now. So another defensive move for the Wild. They got another deadline acquisition that just kind of trickled in here. I'm still waiting to see what the Wild gave up. We'll give you that information when it comes in.
That is, that's a bold move. Okay, so I was completely wrong. They weren't done yet, and that is a major. I mean, he's not the same player that he was previously, but as Declan said, he was with the Ducks, who are an absolute dumpster fire. And this also provides a guy that can play on your power play, I'm sure. I guess I guess the question comes up now: who's he paired with on your defensive pairings? I gotta think a defenseman got traded out. I would think.
You'd think
I don't know
so.
if Goose is involved in this one or not, but I would think that this is not just a draft pick. This takes it up a notch from what I expected, Declan Goff and fans. I didn't expect this.
From my guy Jay Fresh again, a little write up. He posts little graphics and gives little visual explainers on analytics. He writes up on the Klingberg acquisition. Klingberg, acquired by Minnesota, is a skilled puck moving defenseman who's great on the power play. He's also the worst defensive player on the worst defensive team of the Cap era. Truly just gave up on defending entirely. So he grades these offensive scales on a 0 to 100% percentile of how you rank in certain categories. Jonathan Klingberg is in the 92nd percentile for offense. He is in the 0 percentile for defense. So
this isn't a Dean guy at all. Then this
is interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather have him playing third line minutes, I guess. By the way, Dane Mitsutani reporting the Wild are trading a 4th round pick in 2025 for Klingberg. So Dane from the Pioneer Press saying it's a 2025 4th round pick going to the Ducks for Jonathan Klingberg. So that's the other acquisition as well.
Joe Smith from The Athletic just reported Alex Goligoski is staying with the Wild. Was never asked to waive his no move. So Joe obviously talked to Goligoski. So that's interesting. I mean, this brings up a lot of questions. I love this. A lot of questions about your depth now because it's, Faber's coming. I think the plan is for him, once the Gophers are done, he is eligible to step in, and I think that's the plan. That's certainly been reported on. Is this a guy that you're going to use on the power play more? Power play 1 right now at the points features one defenseman, and that is Kalen Addison. So my guess is he's out, right? Yeah. A power play 1, Klingberg's in.
Maybe.
Look, like it or not, Dex, just as a off the top of my head, this sort of fits there. They don't trust Kalen at all. Now, but Klingberg, as you said, defensively is a dumpster fire. So, boy, this is going to be intriguing to watch.
Yeah, I'm very curious how this all now plays out here. I mean, this is That's a bigger move in my opinion. I mean, that's probably one of the more known commodities in the NHL from an offensive first defenseman in Jonathan Klingberg, again, who has played a ton of playoff games. Probably a guy who can quarterback a power play. I mean, I don't think you're right that I don't think they probably trust that Klingberg and Addison. Well, they definitely don't trust them together on the ice. I can tell you that much. They would be 100%.
No, I'm
split
saying
up.
Kalen's off the first power play. I'm saying Kalen might be scratched.
I'm
saying I don't think here's what I'm trying to say. Here's what I'm saying. I don't think Dean likes him. I don't think Dean wants to play him. I think Dean's but you just went through stats that prove that Klingberg is a defensive liability himself. So like my whole point until this, and I'm not objecting, but my whole point until this was this team is doing everything they can to get as responsible as possible defensively. And I know that there is a panic to create more offense, but I guess my question comes at what price? Because Calen Addison can create more offense, and I think Dean turns 6 shades of red every time he watches them because it drives him crazy.
By the way, Jonathan Klingberg signed a 1-year, $7 million deal with the Ducks last summer, so he's on an expiring deal as well. So he fits into the Wild's cap for that cap hit post-trade deadline cap, if you will. So he fits under there. But I mean, he was making he kind of did a 1-year prove-it deal essentially with Anaheim. 1 year, $7 million. A guy who at one time was one of the better puck-moving defensemen in the NHL. But man, this is pretty wild. What a crazy buzzer beater trade that just trickled in for Bill Guerin.
So just to go back through Klingberg's power play work, okay, with the Ducks this season in 50 games, he had 5 power play assists and 1 power play goal. He hasn't scored more than 2 power play goals in a season since he had 5 in 2018-19 with Dallas. And so his power play production now he did, as recently as last season with Dallas, Declan, he did have 19 power play assists. So my guess is he's going to be the top defensive point man, and Kalen's off that. Now the question is, does Calen Addison even play? And my guess is no. But yeah, this is an interesting move. I wonder how much of a stomach Dean has, though. He must think, because this guy's a veteran player, and he has been very good at times, that it's more palatable for him to watch Jonathan Klingberg than Calen Addison play. But this is going to take some digesting. The rest of them I totally got. This one's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just curious how everything fits in. What's your defensive pairs?
Let's go through that actually. Let's go through that actually right now. Spurgeon and Middleton aren't getting separated. Yep, they've done a great job. Brodin's coming back at some point here. Let's go with Brodin, because clearly in the playoffs, unless something goes really wrong, he's going to slot in. Brodin and Dumba have been paired together, and then it's been Merrill and Addison, and Goligoski has been with Dumba of late.
Okay.
Are we talking Well, you know what you could do? Okay, here's a thought for you.
I think I know where you're going.
Brodin and Klingberg.
Yeah.
Because Brodin cleans up for everything people do wrong. And then Merrill, I think Addison's out. So I think it's Merrill and Dumba, or Merrill and Goose. And my guess it's Dumba. My only question then is when Faber comes in, and I think he's going to play, who does he slot in for? And does Klingberg go down to the third pairing? Would they put, Brodin to me, as good as Spurgeon is, and he does a lot of things. He does a lot of small things, blocks a ton of shots. He's positionally really sound. I think Brodin is their most solid, sound defenseman. So if I have any worries about a guy like Klingberg defensively, Declan, or Faber being young, I'm probably going to default to Brodin being partnered with that player.
Yeah, there's probably no combination that involves the following 3 players. And I know there's 2 on the spot, but bear with me here. I don't think there's any combination that is Dumba Addison, Dumba Klingberg, Klingberg Addison.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think for the sake of these pairings, I think we can scratch Addison off the pairings. I don't think he's going to play. unless Klingberg gets hurt.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it doesn't fit. So
I mean, Spurgeon's the second power play guy.
Yep.
So he's not gonna get bumped by Kalen on the second unit. And heck, that second group barely plays. The first group just stays on the ice.
Yes. So yeah, very curious how that would play out.
I'm gonna start do some line.
Yeah,
line
I can little line combinations, which we love to do on Judd Sox. We got like over 1,000 people watching JHS.
Let's
right
just
now,
keep
so
going now that we've got this.
Yeah, hit the
breaking
subscribe
news, John
button
Klingberg.
for daily Minnesota sports entertainment right here on SKOR. And if you like Minnesota Vikings talk, go to Purple Daily for daily Vikings entertainment. Old Dex tweets those after both at the top of the hour for event line. AJ Fredrickson, though, is speaking of getting up from Iowa and being recalled in pursuit right now to join JHS in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So we will get his thoughts
Awesome.
as well on this
that.
deal. So yeah, Spurgeon and Middleton obviously aren't going anywhere. That's one of the best defensive pairs basically in the NHL. Man, could you put Brodin with Addison? Brodin
With Klingberg.
with Klingberg.
I think
and
you
then
would, yes.
Merrill and Dumba. That's probably
Yes. I think you just hit it.
Uh,
And I think Goose is out, right?
Yeah, Goose is just out. He's.
And by the way, to be very clear here, Dean will not do this, but I challenge him to. I don't think Johnny Merrill should have a pass to play every game.
It's true too.
I am not, Tuesday night again. He got beat on that Islander goal. He got beat. Johnny Merrill just plays, and he seems like a great guy. The typical Judd thing. Seems like a great human being. But I don't think he should have a license to just play.
Yeah, that is also true. By the way, Joe Smith giving a little bit more clarity on the deal involving Klingberg. Jonathan Klingberg to the Wild. They are sending a fourth in 2025. Andre Suster, who was an up-and-down player the Wild have sent, and the rights to Nikita, Nestrenko, who I believe is a college hockey player with Boston College. Okay. So a couple more compensations going there to Klingberg. If it is Nestrenko, that's how you pronounce it, he is having a pretty good season with BC and the college ranks. 32 games, 30 points, 11 goals, 19 assists. So a sixth-round pick, I believe, by Minnesota a few years back. So they've controlled his rights. Might be one of those situations where they don't feel they can re-sign him. So a couple more things going to the Anaheim Ducks, in the Klingberg trade. Yeah, I don't think there's an possibility that Addison is in the lineup with Klingberg also in the lineup.
It doesn't make sense. And it makes sense that they were looking, in retrospect now, that they were looking to get Addison out. Because, I mean, the last time he was scratched, Declan, he was scratched for like 4 or 5 games, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that was not a wake-up. I mean, the Dumba thing was a wake-up call. Dumba's not being scratched again. He's come back, performed better. I think that they sent him a message. The first time they scratched Kalen for a game, I think they sent him a message. The second time, I think they were just pissed off.
Right.
And I don't think that they think, and I will say this, and we talked about this a couple days ago. I will say this on Kalen. 1, I'd like to see him develop. 2, I think he definitely has ability to move the puck that this team can use, that Klingberg, I guess, now is going to replace. But positionally in his own zone, he does struggle. Now, I can't say I've watched a ton of Klingberg. I did in Dallas, just against the Wild, and he's impressive. I don't know how much of his being absolutely horse bleep in 2022-23 has been being with the Ducks, who, again, literally are just awful. I mean, they are a Connor Bedard hotbed. But yeah, I got to think that this spells the end. This might spell the end period, because he'll probably be traded at the draft at this rate for Kalen Addison.
Another note on, I know we're talking about Klingberg's offensive ability, but just how much of a liability he can be defensively. This also from J Fresh Hockey. I want to put in defensive numbers I want to put Klingberg's defensive numbers in perspective before the Wild ruined them. Wow. The Ducks gave up 42.2 shots and 4.2 times goals per 60 that he's on the ice at 5-on-5. So per 60 minutes, basically, when Klingberg is on the ice at 5-on-5, the opposing team is getting 42.2 shots off and are scoring 4.2 goals per 60 minutes. That is a humongous liability. Now, he might be propped up a little bit if he's going to play with Jonas Brodin, so some of those numbers will get a little bit better. But this is where you got to take some of that offset off of, all right, if he's going to quarterback a power play and score some power play points, that's all good and gravy. But, man, this guy could leave some players high and dry. In fact, I can see Judd Zulgad now from the press box at the X in a first-round series with the field glasses on, waiting to watch his band. And as Klingberg, there's a Colorado Avalanche forward open and a goal. I can 100% see it now.
Again, though, Declan, this gets back to coaching. Guess what can't happen? You got to make sure, especially at home, that Nathan MacKinnon is not on the ice at the same time as John Klingberg. I mean, this is where you got to be disciplined. This is where you have to be smart. This is where you're going to have shutdown defensemen. You know, keep in mind, 2003, I'll go back to it. Peter Forsberg, Wes Walls, and guys like Willie Mitchell drove him up the wall. Not because they were trying to score goals, because all they wanted to do was bug him. So that's a very important thing. So just to recap, Jordan Greenway now in Buffalo. Wild gets a couple draft picks back. Oscar Sundqvist, who was a center who we now expect to play wing here because he was playing wing in Detroit, traded from the Red Wings to the Wild for a 4th-round pick in 2023. And John Klingberg, the defenseman who was once fantastic in Dallas, definitely has fallen off, but can move the puck, coming here for a 4th-round pick in 2025 and three non-NHL players currently. Is that right?
Yeah, and it sounds like Michael Russo was reporting that Nesterenko, Hysterico, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. I'm never going to see him again. He had talks with the Wild that they did not plan to sign him. So
okay, so this is the second guy.
Rights. Yeah, just like
because
McBain.
they put the but they put the guy in the deal. They facilitated not the Orlov deal, but the O'Reilly trade. I think that they did the exact same thing, and they put a guy who they owned, but they were going to lose his rights. And if you've been paying attention the past couple of days, the Wild are signing guys that they previously drafted who they hadn't signed, because of course, if you don't sign them by the upcoming draft, they are then eligible to go back into the draft. Before we continue on JHS, speaking of our sponsors, I want to talk to you about my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers, who helped me drop 40 pounds more than a year ago. And here's the most important thing. There's Judd on the left. There's Judd on the right. What you say, what's the difference? Well, it's the weight loss. And here's the most important thing. I said it was more than a year ago because this is Livia Weight Control Centers. It's not a quick fix. It's not a diet. It is actually an easy lifestyle change in which you will drop the weight. And more importantly, the dietitians at Livia will help you keep that weight off. And have I got a deal for you? On a day of deals, on a week of deals in the National Hockey League, Livia is offering today, if you join, 8 weeks for free. That's right. So you can start your course. You can chart your course to a summer of fitting into clothes, looking fantastic, and having all your friends say, how did you lose all that weight? And you'll tell them Livia, but you'll have gotten 8 weeks for free. 855-GO-LIVIA, livia.com, LIVEA.com, voted Minnesota's best weight loss program. Livia, LIVEA.com, Declan.
All right, Judd Zulgad, we got our center in here.
Okay. I am going to take a line change briefly.
Okay.
I got to re-up change. I got to re-up the coffee. and I gotta take care of just a little bit of business. I will be right back.
Oh God!
I mean, right back.
We're gonna put Judd in timeout while he goes and does that. We're gonna welcome in though AJ Fredrickson, also of SKOR North and Judd's Hockey Show, fellow St. Cloud State grad. AJ, what's going on? How are you doing?
Not too much. So let me explain to you my past maybe hour here. Okay. My sister currently still enrolled at St. Cloud State. They are heading south for the kind of spring breaky tennis week where they take on people down around like that Arizona area.
Yep.
So I leave. I embark on this journey, driving through I-94, and I'm going south on 35W, and I get to Terminal 2. And she hops out, and I notice, like, super weird as I'm pulling out, like, okay, Manny Hill starts texting me. Jonathan Harrison starts texting me. I have my friends texting me, but I don't, because I'm a safe driver.
You're a safe driver?
Yeah, I'm a safe driver. I don't really tap in, but I have the heads-up display on the dash. And then I see you, and I'm like, either something's wrong or something happened. So I tap in, and it's like, hey, we're recording a JHS. Do you want to join? I'm like, I'm not home right now. I'll be home soon. I tap on Jonathan Harrison. He goes, what's going on? Can you help? Can you elaborate for me? I said, I don't know what you're talking about because I've been in the car for the past hour, so I'm still picking up. I just 2 seconds ago, before you added me, saw that the Wild are now proud, are now a proud franchise that has Jonathan Klingberg.
Yeah.
Klingberg of all
Klingberg.
people. Wow. So
Yes.
catch me up in like very like an elevator pitch on what exactly has happened in the past hour that I've missed.
Okay, so you saw the Jordan Greenway trade, I'm guessing. Have you seen that?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes.
So they traded Jordan Greenway for a couple draft picks to Buffalo. Then they made another move. They were able to get is it let's see here. Sundqvist from Detroit. So they got Sundqvist from Detroit for a 4th round pick.
Okay.
And then after the deadline had passed, AJ, and we'll get Judd back on here from his line change duties after getting a breather wherever the hell he was doing. After the deadline came and went after 2:00, Jonathan Klingberg's deal trickles in for a 2025 4th round pick and a couple like Andre Suster and another college hockey prospect from BC that wasn't going to sign. So Klingberg, and as I was pointing out, and AJ probably knows this just as well as I do, great offensive moving defenseman, and he also might be one of the worst true defensemen in the NHL. And what Judd and I were trying to figure out, Age, and I tweeted this out as well, and I'm getting some responses. I don't think this bodes well for Kalen Addison. Like, I don't think there's any lineup combination that involves Addison and Klingberg on the definitely not paired together. That would just be suicide. That'd be literally waving the white flag defensively. But even just trying to figure out where they could be matched with other Wild defensemen, I don't think that even exists.
Yeah, my reaction while telling that story, letting the process of Jonathan Klingberg sink in that he's now a member of the Minnesota Wild was, if we're only a few years removed from him being considered maybe like a very above average, arguably elite offensive defenseman, that's definitely rescinded. But then it sunk in. If you like Kalen Addison, you're in for some bad news, because this is this is an older Kalen Addison who is much more established, who you're not going to want to double up. If they've already been scratching Kalen Addison on a very regular basis here recently. And I know a lot of the Wild broadcasts have said that the past few games that we've seen him, he's cleaned up his defensive game and maybe more focused more on that. I think it's been more of they just kind of had to play him. You know, they at a certain point you have to, especially if you want to showcase him. That leads me to believe, do you think they maybe tried to shop a guy like Addison here before the deadline and something fell through? And then now they're kind of stuck with both a Klingberg and an Addison?
Judd, you got to unmute yourself there.
Thank you very much, Declan. Old man mute self on hockey podcast. You know what? I think at this point in time, they didn't care if they could trade him or not. I just think that this speaks to, and it's not surprising you guys, how much Dean doesn't want to play him. And I told Dex this. I said, the first time they scratched him, I think it was a wake-up call, right? It was like a game. They scratched him for a game, maybe 2. And it was like the dumbest scratch. Okay, kid, wake up. The second time they scratched him for like 4 games. And that's not a wake-up call. That's you've lost your job call. He had to be put back in. Brodin got hurt. I think that this is, and look, I mean, it's a veteran guy. I don't know if he's going to be terrible defensively or what. But I was telling Declan, I think that this is a guy, one who, Addison is now a healthy scratch for the rest of the season, barring injury. And I think this is a guy that when Brodin gets back, you put with Brodin, and Brodin covers for Klingberg's miscues, and Klingberg is counted on to move the puck. I will say this about last night's game. Keep this in mind. And it's Vancouver. Vancouver has high-end talent, but they're a really crappy team. But you know what we saw last night, you guys? We saw a lot of opportunities off the rush. And those opportunities can be started by defensemen a lot of times. And so I wonder if they've been thinking, okay, if we're going to generate offense off the rush with guys not named Kirill Kaprizov sometimes, that a guy like John Klingberg can do that. Just spitballing here. But it definitely, to me, indicates that I would guess that when Brodin's back, they'll pair those two on the second unit. And then probably just as importantly, AJ, that Klingberg will take over for Kalen on the first power play. That's my guess.
Yeah, and he's like I said, he's not super far removed from being a very, very good guy. And maybe it's just he's been on a team that hasn't been the best offensively, so you have seen that kind of decline, similar to what you maybe saw with Gustafson in goal, where he's been on the Ottawa Senators for so long and they've been so bad defensively that his numbers just look awful. And then you're like, why would they trade Cam Talbot for him straight up and blah blah blah. This could be we've talked about the change of scenery for a guy like Brock Besser, but this isn't a homecoming by any means, but a change of scenery to a team that is better defensively and has that role for him to step into of being a power play specialist. I mean, you remember how good Brad Hunt was for about 3 months on the power play? He was lights out.
He's playing for the Avs, dude.
Yeah, no,
he's playing every game for the Avs. He's played well. Good for him.
A journeyman power play specialist, and that's what I think. A much better version of that is John Klingberg, and I immediately I like it. It just sucks that I like Kalen Addison, and I think this obviously doesn't bode well for him in the long run.
As far as the two moves go, the Greenway trade, I think we all agree we absolutely love. I don't think he fit here anymore. I just didn't. He had a terrible year. It was I don't think he played like he cared. I might be wrong. It seemed that way. He was asked about being traded or the rumors about it after Tuesday's game in the locker room and was very tepid. Just like, I don't really think about it. I don't, and clearly didn't care. The Sundqvist addition is intriguing to me. And Age, I think, and we discussed this as well because we love to put together line combinations. You got them right here. That for the time being, I think your third line, I think your second line remains Ek between Boldy and Johansson. I think your third line now, your checking line is Gaudreau, Foligno when he comes back. And I'm not convinced. I think he's banged up, but I think he was struggling. And I think that might have been code for, well, he's not, like, we're not going to announce we're scratching him because they love him. And Sundqvist, who was a right wing on the fourth line in Detroit, bumping up to the right wing on the checking line. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I'd go. I mean, like your point about Greenway. Yeah, I don't think he maybe fit here. And I'm seeing now that it's a second rounder. And not to change the topic, but does that not seem generous? That seems rather generous for a guy like Jordan Greenway. Not that I don't think Jordan Greenway is an okay player, but it's what we were talking about the other day, Judd. When Dex, you were on vacation, it was. He has the potential to do what I see nightly for Joel Eriksson Ek, where his body positioning and the way he blocks out other players and his balance should be there. It's just he doesn't like drop his shoulder and drive to the net. So and at this point in his career, with how long he's been in the league, I don't think you're ever going to get that from him. So getting a second and a fifth that seems pretty solid. That seems like great work at the office for Mr. Billy Guerin. But
no kidding.
But yeah, no, Sundqvist, he's a 2-time cup winner. You have to remember that. I don't know if a lot of people necessarily remember that, but he is going to bring some of that veteran and that seasoned mentality that if you slot him in, he's not a raw piece of meat. He's a medium cooked steak that's coming out of the oven. Or coming out of the back kitchen, and maybe he's that fajita platter. You know, he's got a little sizzle to him where he's gonna help spice up that line a little bit and maybe add a little more flash and pomp and circumstance to whatever line he gets slotted into.
All right, let's go full strength here on Judd's Hockey Show. By the way, hit the subscribe button on the SKOR North YouTube channel. That's Judd Zulgad. I'm Declan Goff, AJ Fredrickson in the middle, and of course, we now welcome in Jessi Pierce from NHL.
What's up, guys?
Jessi.
Judd Hockey Show. Never before have we had everyone.
I put a little Big Rig shirt on in memory. Pour one out.
Pour one out for the Big Rig.
Pour one out for the Big Rig.
I think he's very happy. I think he's probably very pleased. He didn't seem like when you asked him in particular on Tuesday about, do you tune this out this time of year? And he's like, oh, not really. I don't pay attention. If I get traded, I get traded. I'd say the Big Rig might not be the most. Now, Buffalo might not have been his first choice, but I don't think he was too upset to probably escape Minnesota. Do you?
No, I don't think so. And I mean, that conversation we had with him, we all had the inkling as media that this is probably the last time we're going to speak with him. Just kind of how it worked out. But his whole fact of, well, I can't control it. And he's absolutely right. And actually, I think Buffalo will be a good fit for him. As a Team USA guy, he knows Don Granato. He's got Tage Thompson. He's got a bunch of Americans out there. Plus, he's a New York guy, I believe. So, I mean, ultimately, yes, Buffalo seems like the place that no one wants to go, but it's lately getting to be more and more exciting out there. And I think if Greenway can pick up and just work a little bit harder, he can maybe salvage his career. I overheard you, AJ, mention the shoulder. I think going back to that injury, even though too, he admitted to us right away, yeah, I'm a little scared. I'm a little nervous to go around and throw that big body out there. Well, you can't have a guy like that, especially on a line like the Grief line. So I think it could be a good change of scenery for him. Hopefully he finds his game. Hopefully he works on his game a little bit more than what you saw. But ultimately, I just want to give a round of applause to Bill Guerin once again this year. I mean, what he's able to do and what he's able to move for the little amount that he does, it's truly magic. Like, I can't even understand how he's able to do that. You had mentioned coming back in the Greenway trade as a second round pick. This class is stacked, you guys.
Yes,
like that second round is going to be stock full of high potential as well. So that's just fantastic. I mean, more than absolutely Greenway probably deserved, especially with no salary retention. So not only do you get a great look at a selection in the second round, but you're saving $3 million to play with moving forward. So all in all, stamp of approval. I wish he would have done this earlier because I was enjoying my Friday until the last 30 minutes of deadline, right?
Well, you knew this was going to, all of the trades except for the Klingberg trade. How surprised were you? Like, that's the one that I think caught us all off guard. The rest of the trades, not shocking. Yeah. But when you go get John Klingberg, who at one time was an outstanding, as AJ said, offensive defenseman, he's still good. Dex went through the advanced metrics. Defensively, he is a train wreck. But what were your initial reaction to the acquisition of a guy who used to give the Wild big time problems as a member of the hated Dallas Stars?
I thought somebody was trolling me when they mentioned it. I was like, that's not real. Because I mean, his name was wanted and touted in so many different team circles, right? Edmonton was looking at him. Chicago, I mean, you name it, a team had considered him because he was and possibly almost still is a top 4 defenseman. Whether he's dropped, I still would put him in the top 4 instead of Goligoski, instead of a John Merrill, right? And obviously we've seen the Wild kind of fall out of favor with Kalen Addison for whatever reason that might be. So it's exciting. I hope that you can tap into that better two-way player that he is, because I think obviously Minnesota does enjoy a good offensive defenseman. But for him being a UFA next year, that's also nice. I love that all of these guys, nothing's long-term. I am 100% okay with just the rental situation. See what they do. See if they're worth anything. The one concerning thought I did have in regard to picking up Klingberg is my curiosity piqued. Is Jonas Brodin hurt more seriously than maybe we thought? Because it seems like that's possibly a reason to go out and get a defenseman, because really we might have our gripes and groans about Golly and Merrill in particular, but they haven't been doing too bad. And huge credit to that is to goaltending. But I feel if you're going out of your way to get a defenseman like Klingberg of that stature, especially for Nestorenko, who is a good prospect, Andre Schuster, whatever, and a pick are fine. But it makes me kind of wonder, and this is just me and my little brain twirling around it. I don't know anything at all. I'm just saying maybe that's
rather reckless speculation, if you ask me, Jessi Pierce.
I do that sometimes. I'm just saying, like, it just seems odd. It seems like very out of left field that you're going out and getting a defenseman right now. I thought they'd wait, until a little bit later, because Dumba will likely be out as well, but we'll see.
Jess, I got to imagine there is no type of situation where Klingberg and Addison are not on the ice together, but probably not in the lineup together, right? Like I don't know how the combination would work with two guys who are offensive first dudes that don't really get a lot of defensive trust. Mm-hmm. I think this probably doesn't bode well necessarily for Kalen Addison drawing in a ton.
Well, and that's why when it was first reported that Klingberg was out, the immediate thought was they got rid of Addison, right? Like that's kind of the more, because exactly like you said, Dex, they have been knocking Addison down for his lack of defensive style, and he stepped it up a little bit. But yeah, I would have to imagine you're going to put him, I feel it'll be Klingberg and Dumba. again, until Brodeen comes back, and we're not sure when that might be. But yeah, certainly Kalen Addison, it'll be interesting to see. I still would trust Addison over a couple of the other guys that are seeing the ice, but apparently Bill and Dean don't always listen to me, just once in a while.
Did you say Klingberg and Dumba? AJ, react to Klingberg and Dumba, because I could probably throw grenades on the ice that would be safer than those two on the same blue line.
That's a night, like the song Rapper's Paradise or whatever. Is that the
like
Rappers
Gangsters in
Delight
Paradise?
or something?
Gangsters
Gangsters in Paradise, opposition in Paradise, because that screams odd man rush the other way. That screams we're gonna cough the puck up at the blue line, and all of a sudden you've got 2-on-1s going the other way, and goalies are gonna be hanging out left to dry, jock straps everywhere. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna have to hold my breath every time that pairing would be on the ice, because this would be. That's catastrophic. You're asking to get scored on, I feel like, if you're throwing those two. Last night we saw a play where it was, and granted it was an okay pinch, but it was just he got outskated, Matt Dumba, and Alex Goligoski had to come in last.
I saw that. Scared me.
Good.
Oh my god. And the thing is, like, I don't think Alex Goligoski is the most like sound defenseman at this stage of his career.
No, I agree.
But he looked like a Norris Trophy winner right there, because he stepped in and recognized, okay, I got to bail him out. And it seems like, and not to just attack Matt Dumba here, but it seems like whoever is paired on the ice with him at whatever given time needs to have that inkling in the back of their mind of, all right, maybe I got to one step back just in case. I got to one eye just kind of looking at him, and then I'll play my game. But as soon as I see him maybe commit to something, I got to start hustling, because who knows what's going to happen. So if you get those two out on the ice together,
yeah, it scares me.
No, see, I like it. I think this is going to be
Jessi.
Klingberg's reawakening. I am here for it. Let's
Jay
go.
Fresh Hockey doesn't think he can play from the blue line in. Poor Marc-Andre Fleury. You talk about the flower wilting. The flower, springtime will not help the flower with that. So it's Declan, it's AJ, it's Jessi, it's Judd. Declan, start with you. From the time the week started. So Nyquist in, hurt, but hopefully plays in the playoffs. Johansson in, Greenway gone, Sundqvist in, and Klingberg in. How much different do you feel about the Wild than you did when the week started?
I feel better. I feel a lot better about their chances to potentially get out of the first round for sure. The West is so wide open. I'm still trying to figure out where the Wild kind of fall in that pecking order. But I think that they have kind of set themselves up here to be much more of a depth team and a checking line team. And, if you have two solid goaltenders now, and Philip Gustafsson, and Fleury now is playing a lot better over the last 3 games, it feels a lot better, right? I mean, the goaltending is one of the hardest things to project. And if you don't feel good about it going into the playoffs, you're going to be in some serious trouble. I think the thing that probably worries me, and it happened against the Vegas Golden Knights 2 years ago, is our team just going to do everything they can to shut down Kirill and think, can the Wild beat us? Like if we take him out to the best of their ability, I don't think there is just shutting him down completely over a 6-7 game series. But if you take him out of the majority, is there anyone else in the Wild that can step up and beat you? And Vegas was able to get by, and then the Wild did force 7 games in that situation. So kudos to them for forcing 7 games. But I think that's probably my worry, that opposing team is going to focus in on just making life hell on Kirill. And I mean, the Wild can't buy a 5-on-5 goal in general, right? I mean, Kirill's been carrying them to goals and goals and goals. So if he's not scoring, no one is scoring. I think that's probably my only fear, but I do feel a lot better about the moves they've made over the last 3 days than I did how they stood about a week ago.
Age?
Yeah, they're a better team. Like, just simply, they're a better team, I think, than they were 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago. Because you cut off a little bit of fat there in the term of the expression. Not that Jordan Greenway's out of shape. I'm one to talk, but they add offense, maybe not just where I wanted it. I was hoping that if you're going to trade for a guy that's going to bring an offensive spark, not that Sundqvist can't be that guy, but he's not that playmaking centerman that I think that everybody thinks the Wild need, that they've been lacking now for however many years. And adding that on the back end, and then you're sacrificing, like we said, I don't expect, like, what are the odds, like the sportsbook odds of having Addison and Klingberg in the same lineup, like plus 50,000? I don't think it's happening. So as much as I would love to have one of those things, or both of those guys like in the lineup and in the roster and everything like that, it's not going to happen. So I do think they are better than they were last night, a week ago, however, a month ago. And if you do get, Jonas Brodin back, you're not going to have as many defensive liabilities. And I know it was just reported that without shock, Dakota Mermis got sent down with nobody else recalled. So they're going to have the four kind of guys out, but it's, I like the moves. I like the moves overall. I'm not going to say that it was a bad trade deadline. I'm not going to say it was a bad past month or so of them trying to wheel and deal, because Bill Guerin, as Jessi said, came in second year in a row, and I'm going to give him a thumbs up and then some, because I was expecting his first kind of full season, the fleecing, so to speak, or maybe the efficiency in trades, because what's the joke for a while, I feel like, has been Steve Yzerman calls you, he tells you what he wants, and then you just accept. Bill Guerin is kind of getting into that role where it feels like if he has a plan, he's going to get it done, whether it's schmoozing you or berating you or complimenting you. I don't know what goes on the phone lines with him, but something's working, and he must be a master negotiator, because he is getting that job done.
Jessi Pierce.
Do I think they're better? No.
Do you feel differently
really
about them? Okay.
No. I mean, I'll be honest. I think you got some bottom six forwards, which adds to your depth. You have a bunch of number 3 centers now. The one that intrigues me the most out of all of the additions, aside from Klingberg, who I have now mentioned is going to have a great second half to his season here with Minnesota, that watch it, mark my words. No, I am excited about Gustav Nyquist. Now, again, we don't know when he's going to return. I think he's the one that they picked up with the most potential. Marcus Johansson, I still just have the one season with the Minnesota Wild stuck in my head, so I still have a lot of concern around that. And Sundqvist, I don't feel one way or another. I think in general the Minnesota Wild are a better team than they were a couple weeks ago too. But I don't hate the moves by any means, because Bill Guerin did it while doing nothing simultaneously. You're not selling the farm, you're just doing these little things. So it adds to depth. So I guess I'd give him a smidge better, but really I don't feel strongly one way or another, aside from the fact that, again, all hail Billy G. He knows how to get it done when it needs to get done.
I think the fact is this team is 3 points from first place and the top of the Western Conference, but yet they also aren't that far from being out of the playoffs. And I don't think this team was worth investing a ton in, like future assets, first round picks. And so I think that what they did is absolutely fine. I think if they continue to play like they're playing defensively right now, they can have some success, because it's a winning formula. Hopefully they can score some goals. But I think this team got exactly what it deserved, which is some complimentary moves, but they didn't deserve the big splash. I think they got the big splash last year with Fleury. They didn't deserve that. If they can win a round in the playoffs because they're, one, well coached, and 2, play hard defensively, that's great. But I think that this is, for where the Wild is at right now and the salary cap, I think that this was a very successful foray into trying to improve things. But it's basically a paint job on a house that has some issues, and I'm fine with that. So, all right, Declan, I think you've got to go to vent line, so wrap us up, sir. And Jessi, thanks for joining. AJ, thanks for coming on, too.
Anytime, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Little full-strength edition here of Judd's Hockey Show. We are live for about 90 minutes here on the SKOR North YouTube channel. So a full recap of everything that has happened here. If you want to skip ahead, I think even there might be some post-production work here. We'll chop some things up and give you some great analysis from the Minnesota Wild side on a busy NHL trade deadline day. So hit that subscribe button for daily Minnesota sports entertainment. Head on over to Purple Daily Vikings entertainment. We have Vikings Vent Line ready to rock on Sunday as well. I'm guessing there'll be some weekend statements next Monday with Mackie, Judd, and myself to recap more Minnesota Wild news. But we will be back at another time. Hit that subscribe button for Daily Vikings or Daily Wild entertainment. We'll be back next week.
There's no room for petty bull.